Hello and welcome to Kids Corner. I'm Shirley and my teddy bear Sir Winston is having a break tonight because this is kind of messy and he really doesn't like to get messy. So what we're going to do today is to make an Easter Egg Pinata. Now I know that some of you are probably worried that you might not get an Easter egg hunt in this year because of all the restrictions we're under. So I thought this is a nice opportunity to start a new tradition, and maybe we could start one with an Easter egg pinata. And if you don't know what a pinata is, it is a form that's made of paper mache, decorated, that you can hang up and hit, and once it breaks open, candies or whatever treats were put inside comes out for you to have. So what we're going to need to do this is a balloon, some glue type material. I didn't have any glue in the house, so we actually can make it out of flour, water, salt, and so we'll need a mixing spoon, a measuring spoon, and a bowl. We need some scrap paper, like newspaper, scissors, perhaps a sharp needle or some pointed scissors, some stuff to decorate it with, and crepe paper could be used as well, or some paint. And I have a container of water to rinse off my hands in if it gets very messy. So, one of the first things we do is blow up the balloon. I'm not going to do it here because I could be like the big bad wolf and the three little pigs and the brick house. I could huff and puff and nothing would happen. So I went and blew up a balloon. And I brought along a little bowl to put it in so it would stay still. And we're just going to put it off to one side because we're going to start to mix our glue. So what we're going to do is put in a cup of flour. And it's supposed to have a cup of warm water, but apparently, and we'll find out, it might work a little better if you put in some cold water and start to mix it. And what we want to do is mix it to have all the lumps come out. And then we'll start topping up with some warm water. And this might take us a little while. Pour in some more water. It's looking more like bread dough than like glue. And pour in some more water until we put in all our water. And we keep mixing so that it's all the same consistency. That means really that we don't have lumps or thick spots. My camera assistant thinks that maybe a whisk would be a good thing to try it on. You may notice before I started that I put protection on my surface, and what I did was actually I used a clear plastic garbage bag. I've also got my apron on to protect my clothes. Okay, I finished mixing it up, and when you pour it off your spoon, it pours like this. Now, if you have glue in the house, you could have used glue with a mixture of somewhere about a cup of glue, a half a cup of water, but I don't have that much glue. A couple of things I forgot to mention is you should have a collection of treats that you'd like to put in it. Make sure the treats are wrapped because once you break it open, it's going to fall to the floor and you really want to have your candy wrapped. And perhaps a little piece of thicker paper or cardboard at the end. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our newspaper, and maybe this is the enjoyable part, and probably do it before you start, is rip it. And you'll probably want to rip it in half this way. And then what you're going to do is, we'll want to put a half a teaspoon of salt into our glue mix. You do this with your paper mache, because some paper mache you make keeps it for a while and it keeps it from going moldy. So we have that mixed in. And what we're going to do is move our balloon over. And we're going to take a piece of our newspaper and we're going to put it in the mixture. And this is where it kind of gets messy. Put it in and we're going to run our fingers down the length of paper so that our glue isn't on too thickly. Because if it's on really, really thickly, it's going to take a long time to dry. And then what we do is we're going to lay it on our balloon and smooth it out. Try to get some of the wrinkles out of it if we can. Maybe that's where a shorter piece comes in a little handy. Put in the next piece. Again, we want to make sure that the glue is over all of it. But not too thick. So just run it down between your fingers and we'll lay it over and smooth it out with our fingers. Now as we start to put it on, it gets challenging because it gets heavier on the balloon, and the balloon wants to kind of keep rolling over the side where it is. Now we want to pay a particular amount of attention to the top. I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to cut it or tear it so that it's a little smaller, because what we want to do is we're going to create a little hole near the top where we're going to put in our treats, and that little hole is going to be around where we've tied our knot. So we have to think about the size of treats we have, because we don't want to make the hole too small to get them in, and we don't want to make it too large so I'm looking, I have sort of an arrow bar, kind of that size. So we're going to do some pieces around there. And we're going to keep doing the pieces. We're going to have probably about 2 layers. When we make it with the flour glue, it's much stronger than if you make it with the regular glue. I had made one several years ago for a kid's party, and I'm not sure how many layers I put on, but it was at least 3. And usually when you play with the pinata, some of the times what you do is you actually blindfold the people and you give them a stick and they try to hit the pinata swinging in the air. Well, mine was so strong that after kids hit it, it didn't break. And we had to take off the blindfolds and just let them keep whacking at it until it broke. So there we are with the space left around here. So just kind of keep smoothing it off with your fingers. Hello, I finished putting on the layers. Now, as a quick check, you want to look at your balloon and see if you can see the color of the balloon through the layers. You want to have sort of smoothed it out with your finger so that it has a smoother finish. And it'll need to dry at least a day. If you leave it drying in this, your Easter egg is going to have a really funny bottom. So what I've done is I've tied a knot around the top, and you want to make sure that the string you've tied is below the knot in the balloon. And we're going to lift it up. You may need to smooth out the bottom because this is surprisingly heavy. Now I am going to tie this to my light in the dining room. I wouldn't suggest that that's probably where you want to put it in your house. And you want to make sure that you have something underneath in case there's any drips. And if you're making it with glue, you're more likely to get the drips. We go. Hello, before I thought I'd go to bed tonight, I thought maybe we'll try a second one because some of my balloons are actually older than you, and it took quite a few tries to get a couple that would work. So I thought, let's make a backup just in case something goes wrong when this is drying. So I've done up another one, tried to smooth it all out, and I thought, why don't we try an experiment? So I got some old Christmas wrapping paper that I thought we'd try to put a layer on. And this week I put little hearts in the windows, and I thought maybe we'll try that as decoration. So let's see if we can layer that in so it goes into the glue. And just like the others, we smooth the glue off. And we're going to put it over. Now it's probably helpful to think that the smaller the balloon, the smaller the piece that you should use. And since we hope this is going to be the outside layer, we're going to try to smooth this off as much as possible. I'll tell you, you have to really put in the time to wait for this to dry, because several years ago when I made one, I thought, oh, I'm tired to wait for it to dry. So what I'll do is I'll just turn the oven down low and I'll put it in the oven, and that will dry very quickly. That was a mistake. Forgot the basic rule that I learned in science. When you heat air, it expands. And the balloon expanded, and the whole thing popped inside the oven, and I had to start over. So let's put on another one. So we'll go around, and we just have to do one layer. So we're just finishing this off, and in this case I've just got a little bit of a wet Kleenex to smooth some of the glue off. There was so much glue on it that actually I stuck some of these hearts down without putting them in the solution. So now I think we've got it done, and just like the other one, we'll hang it up and we'll see what it looks like when it dries. Hi, I'm back. Our paper mache balloons dried. It's been about a day and a half, and we learned some things from that, because when I came down this morning, my balloon looked like this. So what happens is over time, our balloon gets a little smaller and the weight of it starts pushing out. So when we do it, we want to put a couple of, probably 3 paper mache layers right near the top, and to keep an eye on our balloon so it doesn't come through. The other one wasn't as bad, but I cut it off about a couple of hours ago. And today too, we're joined by my teddy bear Sir Winston and his friend Peter Rabbit. They decided we wouldn't get stuff stuck in their fur today. And it was a good decision not to be with us when we were doing this, because when I went to clean up, I had pieces all over the table, me, and the floor. So remember, you want to clean it up right after you finish because it makes it much easier. So now what we're going to do is we're either going to take a pin and a pair of sharp scissors, and we're going to try to pop the balloon. Here goes. And it starts to deflate. The important thing is that you want it away from the inside, because that'll make it really difficult to pop it. So then what we want to do is we want to do something so that we can hang it. If you had lots of time, you could sort of build a hook and paper mache, but that would probably take a good day or so to dry, or you may be able to, if you have a very strong glue, do up something. But what we're going to do is take the sharp scissors, and we're going to put a little hole in one side, and we're going to try to go about directly across, and about the same level, put another little hole in. And what's going to happen is we're going to put a string through that in time. But before we put the string through, I think it's time to put in our treats. So I went through the house and tried to find various wrap treats that I could put in. There, a little bit more. And I think we've got a good collection for treats. So now what we're going to do is take our string and put it through one hole. Try to catch it with our fingers. This is probably where small fingers come in handy. And then there we go. Now, one way to probably make that easier is to put, if you've got a big needle, to put that on the end of the string. So we're just going to take our string and we're going to tie it in a nice square knot so that it won't come undone, and that'll give us something to hang it by. And so what you want is a nice strong string so your pinata wouldn't drop. So now what we want to do is we don't want it there with a hole in the top. So I've got a piece of thicker paper that I'm going to trim to near the shape of the hole. I might trim a little, if we can, down in the hole here.
Suggestion from the peanut gallery.
And what does the peanut gallery have to say?
Put a cut right through almost to the center so it folds over itself.
Yes. So peanut gallery has suggested making a bigger cut so that we can fold it like this. And I think we're going to try perhaps a different glue. Okay, here we go again. So we use those little cuts we've made to fold it over. And we may have to hold it down for a few minutes. So now we kind of have it down, and we're going to cover it up to make it look a little better. Now you remember that we did the experiment here using wrapping paper and our mixture of flour, and you can see that that flour mixture kind of left some white on it. So I think in terms of doing that, it is better to do it either with the glue, if you have glue at the time, or afterwards decorate it using glue. And then what we'll do is we will use some of our hearts to make the edges look a little better. So I'm going to finish that a little later, and we'll move on to our second balloon. So remember what we did? Ready? 1, 2, 3. That was much more of a pop. And so we're going to take out, the balloon. Probably going to trim off the edges a little, put a hole in either side to hold it, and we'll decorate it. And this time, there's different ways you can decorate. If you have paint, you can paint it. But what I'm going to do this time is I found some crepe paper ribbon, and I cut off crepe paper ribbon, and what I did was I cut little fringes, but don't go too near the top, and we're going to try layers of fringes. I'll do that, and I'll be with you in a few minutes.
Action.
Well, you've seen me put together the blue and white one, and I learned some things while I was doing it. Because the crepe paper kind of stretches when you do it, I found it was very helpful to take the glue stick, and after I got the first few stuck on, go on top and then just lay the layers on. Now you may have noticed that I made a round piece, almost like a cone for the top, and we used a different kind of glue on it. We used wood glue. Now if you've got a good white glue at home, that would be good too. And after I filled it, dried it a little, I turned it upside down on top of this to hold it. Now the thing to keep in mind is if you've turned it upside down, you need to make sure that the fringes go down. Don't put the fringes up, or you're going to have a very funny looking piñata. You'll have to be careful doing like this not to glue down your string. And so see, this is our finished product. And I went back and used a little bit of the wood glue to stick this one down. So here we are with two different piñatas. I really like it. If you make one, if you could send a picture, and we will put the address to send it to at the bottom of the video, and we could post them because we'd really like to see what you're able to do with it. And I know Sir Winston and Peter Rabbit are really looking forward to having to go at them. So, while we end off, will you have a prayer with me? If you could repeat after me. Loving God, help me feel better when I feel like popping like a balloon. Thank you for the people who look after me and others. Thank you for loving me. Amen. And we'll see you next time at Kids Corner.